To reports of officers. 3.1, an RO by the Historic Preservation Housing Rehab Commission, to whom was referred RO number 290-1415 by the city clerk, submitting a historical designation application. Sheboygan Municipal Auditorium and Armory recommends that the auditorium and the armory be designated as a historical structure and directs the Historic Preservation/Housing Rehab Commission to start the process per the ordinance for officially designating the property historic. Alderperson Thiel.
I make a motion that we accept and file the RO.
Second.
There's a motion and second under discussion. These aren't labeled right. Alderperson Carlson.
Thank you, President. I'm going to be opposing this process, and I hope that everybody else joins me for one main reason. I don't think we need to put any unnecessary burdens on the future of the Armory. This committee, the committee, Historic Preservation, already placed a 90-day hold on it, and it actually killed the development, the only development deal that we had for this Armory. The bid process went out for 10 months. And we've all known that there have been issues here for at least 2 years now. We put out, like I said, a 10-month bid process. We only got one viable option, and then this committee effectively killed that project. Luckily, that project is still staying within the city. However, it didn't solve the Armory problem for the city. This process would place some restrictions on the building, albeit it would be restrictions that we're putting on ourselves. But once again, I don't think we need to do that because in development deals, we all know that time is of the essence. So whether it's 5 days, a week, or a month, or 2 months, or even 90 days, it could kill something, and I don't think we need to do that. We haven't gotten any real other options for this project, so I want to be able to just keep our options open, and this will not allow us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Alderperson Thiel.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mr. Peters mentioned, I went and took a tour of the Armory. I haven't been in there in many, many years. I was expecting, just from what I heard from everybody else, that this is a complete disaster inside. It's a mess. Does it need some work? Yes, but I was surprised that it wasn't as bad as I actually really anticipated. Is there some areas inside there that are bad? Absolutely. I think with some, if the right group can find the right funding, it can actually get back to what it was. I know some other people, persons haven't lived here all their lives, don't know the history of the Armory. I have lived here all my life. This is my hometown, and I have some great memories there. I think by making this a historical landmark, or whatever classification it's called, I think we're showing that we do value the historical areas in our city. And I know Alderman Collison said that we killed the deal. Well, I think we didn't really kill anything. I think we saved the building is what we did. This designation protects the exterior of the building. Like he said, it doesn't say that somewhere down the line we don't get any offers, or this group can't put something together, or funding, or whatever. Doesn't mean that somewhere down the line we couldn't vote where it would get taken down. It doesn't do that. It just protects the exterior of the building and may help them get some type of grants down the line and help for some other designations. So I'm obviously in favor of this, and I hope everybody else is also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson Thiel. Alderman Bitters.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, not on a sponsored tour, I also toured the Armory, and I'll let my inner engineer side speak out for the moment. It's not just cosmetic. The problems of that building are profound. Outside of the leaking, the trashed roof, there are things. The moment you try to do anything with that building, is it ADA compliant? No. Is it anywhere close to that? No. Is there a sprinkler system inside? No. Is there other one's still coal. That anyone who thinks, well, some cosmetic changes and a little bit of money will whip this thing back into shape, not true. It's not going to happen that way. You're going to end up somewhere probably between $5 and $10 million to get this back to a viable public building, and I don't see us putting that on the backs of the people who got to pay for this, our local taxpayers. Someone proved to me wrong, but I don't see it. And actually, the exterior of the building is part of what's causing the problems inside. There's leaking and there's water running through the exterior walls, trashing the interior of it. So, I respect the Armory Foundation, all they're trying to do, but it's not as rosy as they make it sound. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bitters. Alderman Bellinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. During my last meeting on the Finance Committee, the Armory Foundation came before us at that point in time, and it was agreed that they would take a tour and hire a architect and go through that facility with them and get a report back from an architect. It's easy, for any one of us aldermen or somebody with an untrained eye to go and look at something and whether it's cosmetic or it's major structural or, significant issues, it's not as easy to see with an untrained eye. So I would like to ask the question, has an architect gone through it, and has there been a report developed as to what the issues are of that building? Thank you.
Not sure who would know the answer to that. Ms. Lurkey? Motion to open the floor to Ms. Lurkey.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please.
Jennifer Lurkey, 111 Highland Drive, Glenbeulah. My name is Jennifer Lurkey. I'm owner of Legacy Architecture here in Sheboygan. I'm a historic preservation architect. It's my specialty. It's 75% of what our revenues are for the year. It's not something we dabble in, and we do preservation work all across the state. I've been in the building twice in the last, once most recently this past Friday, and I was also in the building last February 14, not February 15. On both occasions, I was there with representatives from the Wisconsin Historical Society, and they were there on my invitation. The first visit in February 14, I was there with a potential client who was considering responding to the RFP, and most recently I was in the building with the Armory Foundation. I do have to say the building is very structurally sound. Yes, the roof is leaking. I saw no evidence of the walls leaking. There's one major roof leak on the southeast corner of the building that's causing the water to basically filter down through the entire building and into the basement. I've heard rumors that the roof is collapsing, which does not appear to be the case. There's some plaster that has come down, a very small amount of it, due to the roof leaks. Roof leak is the primary concern with the building as far as I'm concerned. I have not been hired by anybody to do a report. I don't have any proposals out to do a report for anybody. I certainly have those capabilities, and I've done those on numerous buildings in northeastern Wisconsin, but I have not seen any structural problems, and the major cause of the deterioration right now is the roof leaks, two of which I am aware of. There is some concern with the stairs on the northwest corner of the building. The foundation has settled. It's caused some cracking with the concrete, but it's not the building itself. It's just the exterior stairs on the northwest side of the building. As far as the landmark designation is concerned, several years ago we intensive survey report. I don't know if you guys have access to it or have seen it. The first edition of the report was issued in 2002. It was paid for by the city. I was the primary investigator of it at an employed at an apartment town. And the Armory was identified as being potentially eligible for the state national register, therefore making it eligible for tax credits. So we've known that this building is eligible for quite some time. Landmarking is different from eligibility, though, and tonight we're here to talk about landmarking. So I did write a letter of support to have this property landmarked. It was identified in the intensive survey report. Landmarking is not going to prevent you from bulldozing it in the future. That 90-day stay is still going to be in place whether it's landmarked or not. So I really see relatively few restrictions placed on this building if it's landmarked or not. I don't know if anybody has any further questions.
Any questions on the architectural, Alderperson Bellinger?
Thank you, President Hammond. Would you feel comfortable giving a ballpark dollar figure as to what it would cost to redo the roof and get it ADA compliant and sprinklers and get everything?
I should mention the ADA compliance and the sprinklers issues too. For existing buildings that are eligible for the National Register, you can use the International Existing Building Code. That is the building code that we use here in Wisconsin. That would not, depending on future use of the building, it would not force you to make that building ADA compliant. There is a ramp that leads to the first floor, and the entire first floor is accessible. That's usually the baseline minimum for ADA accessibility in all public buildings and places of work. So as of right now, the building meets all compliance standards. As far as
Depending upon what the usage would be.
depending on what the future use of the building, there would be some, if the building would stay relatively in a similar use to what it's being used now, there would be nothing that would trigger, let's say, elevators to be installed, so that there would be accessibility to basement or the upper bleacher level. There are provisions in our building code, we use them all the time. And there are all kinds of public buildings in the city that are not accessible right now. As far as sprinklers are concerned, it's an existing building, it's grandfathered in. Unless there was some major change of use that would happen to the building, nothing would trigger sprinkler systems. So as it stands right now, you wouldn't have to worry about that. The numbers that I have seen from other contractors in town who have taken a stab at putting numbers together for this building have been in like a $5 million range, give or take. That was also for Spaceport years ago. They were putting massive additions on the rear of the building. They were doing all kinds of things. So I personally have not put any numbers together for it. I haven't looked at it in any detail whatsoever, but that is a number that I have seen thrown out there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Lurkey before we move on? Thank you very much. Alderman Carlson.
Thank you. One of the bigger issues that I have with this is the fact that I think we're putting the cart before the horse here. The Armory Foundation doesn't exist on paper. It's not a legal entity, and that's who filed this motion. There is no plan. There is no plan that has been presented to the city as of yet. And like I said, it's almost been a 2-year process. So once again, I don't think we need to go through this process because there is no plan out there. It's been almost 2 years. And I guess according to a miscommunication, they haven't filed their 501c3. They haven't filed tax papers, even though we were told they did last year in a finance meeting. There are a lot of issues here, and I don't think we need to do this, to be quite honest with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Carlson. Alderman Jose.
Well, there are a lot of parallels. I don't know if this is working or not. Speak up. There are a lot of parallels between what the bidder said and a building I'm representing, Sheboygan Masonic Lodge. I am the senior warden of the Sheboygan Masonic Lodge. For those who don't know what that means, it means I'm the vice president. Founded the Sheboygan Masonic Lodge, founded the city of Sheboygan. If you go back 15 years ago, the building was in such a bad state of repair
Okay, thank you. Alderman Bourne, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Question, if this building is not designated a historical structure, that does not preclude Mr. Peters' group from coming through with a proposal to the Finance Committee, does it?
No.
And it doesn't preclude them from getting their 501 designation. That is, historical structure has nothing to do with that.
No.
Thank you.
Alderman Bitters.
Thank you again, Mr. President. With all due respect to Alderman Hussein and our architect speaker, in her comments, she mentions, well, you'd be grandfathered if it wasn't changing purpose of the building. Well, the Armory Foundation, whether they're recognized as an actual foundation or not, their plan the last plan I saw coming to the city talked about radical reuses for the building, that as soon as you start remodeling rooms on the different floors and repurposing the main floor, it entirely could be suddenly not grandfathered anymore. There's a lot of other deeper issues in whether this could be used in the way that we're talking about. If you're going to keep it a basketball court, okay, but anything that you were going to do upstairs, it calls into question whether or not the plan that they came up with so far is any good or not. And I go back to Alderman Carlson's comments that, you had 2 years of get anybody in here with a viable plan that we could act on, and that hasn't happened. So I don't have any problem with the nostalgia and whether we should keep this as historic building. Just realize what you're getting into if we pursue down the path of let's make this historic. It adds an extra hurdle if we ever did decide to do something different. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Thiel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to mention that what we're voting on here today is landmarking a building. This isn't any discussion about if the Sheboygan Foundation is going to go in there, whether something else is going to go in there. What we're here to do is landmark a building. I think we need to remember that. And
Welcome. Alderperson Lassard.
Thank you, President Hammond. I have a question for Attorney Adams. By landmarking this building, what restrictions does it have on the property and on us?
In short, it adds another layer is what it does. I think earlier during public forum, the comment was made that it doesn't prevent this, the demolition of the property, and that is correct as it is. But it does basically add another layer of, there's a time frame, there's a holding period during which no action could be taken, and the Historic Commission takes a look at that. To put it into a nutshell, that's what it does, is it adds another layer of let's look at this before we make that decision to do a major demolition or a major project on the outside.
Okay. Any other discussion? So we're gonna have to keep it to any other discussion from the alderpersons? Okay, there's a motion and a second to accept and file recommendation of the committee to designate it a historic landmark. So by voting aye, you're accepting that it's accepting the resolution to make it a historic landmark. No, you're not. Does everybody understand what they're voting on? Great. Will the clerk please call the roll?
5 ayes, 6 noes.
Motion fails. 3.2 through 3.9 will be referred to various committees.